Miguel Munoz. I'm so sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, man. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. I hope you enjoy the content. I'm sorry I can't speak a lot of your profile pic because I don't know what this logo is. I'm assuming is your custom logo, but if not, I'm sorry. I just don't know where it's come from. Again, thank you so much for subscribing anyways. I still want to thank you. Hello, my name is Dr. Shambles, and today we'll be looking at my purple Luffy deck profile for OP09. Now, let me just talk slowly and organize my thoughts. This is the third time I'm trying to record this, and I'm just not happy with how it's coming out. So, what are we going to be talking about in this video? The deck list, then I'm gonna be talking about the combos, the strategy, then I'm gonna be talking about some budget options, then I'm gonna be talking about the matchups, the most popular matchups that you're probably gonna encounter in OP09. This video will not have a gameplay. I just wanna make this video about the deck profile. The gameplay will be in the description with another video. Also in the description will be this deck list so you guys can copy and paste into the sim. As well as the deck list with the budget options, which pretty much, it does not vary much from this deck list, so yeah. So, what is Luffy about? Purple Luffy is about control. He's a control deck. Pretty much what you do, or what you want to do, is you build board very fast, with very good numbers in terms of power, and then you use that many characters on your board to swing onto your opponent's characters, to take him out, so depleting their swings onto you, and then slowly but surely you'll start managing your swings between characters of your opponent and your opponent's lives to slowly poke away his lives until finally you land the final blow. That is the strategy. Now, how do you accomplish this strategy? This is when we start diving into the deck profile. Which is pretty much your bread and butter of the deck is this one. This is the core, Luffy Taro. Please do feel free to pause to read the card if you need to. I'm not gonna be reading the effects, I'm just gonna be talking about them. So, Luffy Taro is a character that lets you play other purple straw hats of 5 cost or less. So what you wanna do is you wanna play him on your curve play of 7 cost, and then you will very rapidly build more swings onto him, on your board, sorry. You'll build more characters on your board to be able to swing. He's the core of your deck, he's the most important card of your deck. To get to him, you need searchers like Law and Zorojuro. Zorojuro being the best one because on your second turn, and this is when we start diving in to line of combos, when you are at your second turn, you want to go first by the way, when you are at your second turn, you are at 3 dawn, you use your leader ability to go from 3 dawn to 4 dawn to then play Zorojuro, and hopefully you find either a Luffy Taro if you don't have him in hand, or if you already have him in hand, you wanna find a target that is very good for Luffy Taro. Best target being Sangoru. He's the best character you can have. If not, you can just use Zorojuro to search up another Zorojuro and then just later drop him with Luffy Taro and get another search. That's pretty much it. With Zorojuro, if you don't manage to have Luffy Taro or good targets, you can just use Zorojuro to search up, for example, this Sanji, which is a good replacement to play on the 7 curve. Not as good because you want to build board. Again, that's the core of the strategy. Remember that you are a control deck that wants to control the board and then chip away lives. But still very good, still possible. And again, if you don't manage to find Sanji, you don't have Luffy Taro, you have, for example, a Sangoru, but you don't really want to, maybe you don't want to ramp up on the next turn, I'll get to that. Maybe you want to just drop Sangoru and you don't ramp up next turn, but maybe you want to search, you have Sangoru, you don't have Luffy Taro, you don't find anything else, maybe just try to grab a 2k like Uzohashi or Sanji, for example. So now, and that's the thing, so second turn, you ramp up to 4, you play Zorojuro to try and find Luffy Taro or a good target for Luffy Taro. Another thing you can do in this line of combo is you're at 4 down now because you ramped up with leader. If you have a Bond Clay, you can drop Bond Clay. Bond Clay is good for that. What happens is you're at 4 down with your leader ability, you play Bond Clay, he will ramp you up to 5. Next turn you'll be at 7 normally, naturally. So that means if you played Zorojuro, next turn you'll be at 6 dawn, meaning you have to take another one of your own lives to be at 7 dawn and then play Luffy Taro. It's not a big problem, but obviously, let's imagine you have Zorojuro, Luffy Taro, Bon Clay. What you do is you play Bon Clay on the second turn. Next turn you're at 7 done. You play Luffy Taro and play Zorojuro with Luffy Taro. You get a free search. That's it. That's immense. As you guys can see, we would already have in 2 turns. We have already 4 swings. Like on the third turn of this line of combo, we have a lot of swings. So yeah, that's really good. But yeah, this is the line of combo. You always prioritize on early game to find a Luffy Taro and then play him with his targets. If you can't, like Zorojuro and Sanguru are normally your best characters, but don't be afraid to play Onami. Although your Onami only gets her effect by having 8 or more done, and most of the time you are playing on your curve play of 7 and going down 1 done to 6. Don't be afraid, she's still a good target if you don't have anything else, because she's a blocker, so she can block an attack. Or at the very least bait out your opponent's removal. So very good, still very good, don't be afraid to play her. But yeah, that's your line of combo on early game. Now that you know the core of strategy, you know it's Luffy Taro, let's just go into other tech cards. But okay, you know the core, sorry. Now let's go to your late game, which is Lin Ling and the Rush Luffy. You've played normally into your mid game, which is with Luffy Taro. Now on late game, for most of the time you will not be prioritizing Luffy Taro, you'll be prioritizing Lin Ling, because she pretty much gives back the life that you took by ramping up, and she can remove a 6 cost character or less from your opponent's board into his life, which is very good. You're controlling the board like you want to, you're recovering the lives that you took by ramping up, and you're building an enormous body of 9k power, so it's really nice. This is also the same with Rush Luffy. If you see yourself in a good position, or you just kind of need to play a bit more aggressive on that state, you need to evaluate the situation correctly. This will only come to you with experience. But although most of the time I am prioritizing Lin Ling because of the whole control strategy, he's very good because you drop him, he has rush, he draws you 1 card, so he's replacing himself in the hand, and then he's a bigger body with 10k and not 9k. His swing will land much better than a 9k swing, which is 3 cards from hand most of the time, or a block. Him needs to be 2k cards from hand, which is much more, let's call it pushy, much more pressuring to your opponent by discarding a lot of 2k counter. So that's pretty much it. That's the line of combo. Once you get to Luffy Taro, you start not prioritizing Luffy Taro and go for Lin Ling and Luffy. You play 3 of Lin Ling and 2 of Luffy because again you kind of prioritize Lin Ling. And then there's another. Now that we know the line of combo, let's go to the other tech. We already talked about a little bit of Sanji. It can be somewhat of a replacement for Luffy Taro, but most of the time you are going to be playing him of one of 2 ways. First one is the most simple one. Your opponent has a blocker, you don't have any more swings, but you do have the Dawn, and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna play Sanji. Sanji will be played. Take away 1 Dawn. You rest that blocker because there's not really that many blockers that are more than 5 costs, so you can rest that blocker, and then you just swing with Sanji and you pretty much win. Most of the time this will not be a problem because again your core strategy is control, so you're slowly chipping away the board, slowly chipping away cards from hand, and then slowly chipping away the lives. So it's pretty good for that, but because you built so much board, most of the time you don't even need to. You can just attach Dawn, use the 7 cost, the 7 Dawn that you would use with him. You can just distribute from your many swings, and then make your opponent early block and just take lives. So what I like to do with him is, let's imagine I still can't go for a game and I still need to control a little bit more of my opponent's board. I play him, I rest up an active character that I want to take away. This, for example, I'm going to give the example of Luffy. He played Jinbei. Jinbei brings up another character that's active, and then I want to take away that character. I can play Sanji, rest that character, because Luffy is mid-range. A 7k swing from this Sanji as well will make a lot of pressure onto Luffy, and that character already lost a lot of the value that it would have. So he's a good card because of this. This is pretty much a good complement for the strategy. Next, the Onami we already talked about, just to draw and Luffy Taro, just to cycle hand and Luffy Taro target. This law is very nice in case you don't have the Bon Clay, the Zorojuro in hand, or let's see if you see an opportunity to use it on early game. The best combo you have is on early because you are on your second turn. Let's imagine you managed to go first, you're on your second turn, you are 3 down, you make a 5k swing with your leader. If your opponent has 6 cards in hand, he needs to respect the possibility of you having the law. Because let's imagine, if you do have the law and he takes the life, you just play the law and make him go to 5 cards in hand. But if he does respect the law, he counters and that means he's at 5 cards in hand as well. Anyways, so it's a win-win situation for you, and I always swing first just to threaten that I can play that card. So that's one of the mind tricks that you use on your opponent to keep his hand size in check, so you can slowly chip away his board as you want to. So he's pretty good on that. You can drop his effect whenever you want to, obviously throughout the game, to decrease your opponent's hand size. So it's always good to control the hand. Other cards, other tech is the Kid. Most of the time you wanna leave one active Dawn up for your Gum Gum Giant. Even if you don't have him in hand, you want to threaten that you have it, and your opponent needs to respect it. Why? This card is absolutely insane. You're going down on Dawn, yes, but you're pretty much stopping a swing and drawing 2 cards, which is insane. So leaving one Dawn up will make, let's say, mental pressure onto your opponent, and he needs to respect it. So it's a really nice card, and this Kid helps you with that. Not only that, he's a blocker. So you have a Kid on the field. Let's imagine you play Ling Ling. Most of the time you play Ling Ling on your curve play as well with 9, and that would mean you'd have no Dawn up. But because she takes away 1 Dawn and Kid revives you, that Dawn has active, you can now threaten the Giant. Just much better. And from time to time, because you play for the long game, you won't have that much to play. So you just drop the Kid, and then that Kid will have its value as a blocker or with the effect. So it's really nice. I don't play 4, I think 3 is just nice because you're not sacrificing that much Dawn, you know? All your effects pretty much just take away 1 Dawn, which is Luffy, Law, Ling Ling, Luffy Taro, and this Sanji. That's it. And then you have obviously the Giant, but you only play the Giant on your opponent's turn, and the Kid regen is only during your turn. So that's it. Next tech is Kamazu. Kamazu is only a 2k, but then you can use him onto the Dofi, the blue Dofi. Let's just imagine the blue Dofi matchup. It's the only time you kind of drop him. You don't find Bon Clay, you don't find Law, you don't find Zorojuro, you don't find any 4 costs that you normally want to play. You can still ramp up, still threaten the Law, you know, make the 5k swing, whatever. You ramp up, you play Kamazu. Next turn, you have Zorojuro and Luffy Taro. You could have decided not to play that Zorojuro for the search. You could have just played Kamazu. Next turn, you have Luffy Taro and your Zorojuro. You ramp up again, play Luffy Taro, -1 Dawn, put Zorojuro, that -1 Dawn will trigger the Kamazu, and that will take away the new blue Teach that you find in the starter deck of Dofi. Why do you do this? Because Luffy really loves abusing that Teach to put the cards that he loves in hand onto the top deck to get its on-play effect. So it's really nice pressure, and only that it's a 5k swing, so yeah, that's nice. Sanji, pretty self-explanatory, 2k, and from time to time you'll drop him as a blocker, so yeah. And then the Searcher Law, just to add more consistency onto your deck. Just remember, your Searcher Law, the only card you cannot search here from the Straw Hats, besides not being a Straw Hat, is the Gum Gum Giant, because it's a 1 cost. It needs to be a 2 cost or more. So that's it. Now, let's go for very quickly the... wait, that's not it. The budget options. I think all of the deck is very affordable, and whatever it's a bit more expensive, it's core. For example, Luffy Taro is not really that expensive, but maybe if you're a beginner player and want to get into a game, maybe you wouldn't want to buy him or spend the money on him. But again, really not that expensive. The only cards that are very expensive is the Bon Clay and the Rush Luffy that's coming out in OP09. I don't know how much that card will cost, but I am assuming by the Japanese version that I'm seeing on the site that it's already too big, you know? So what are the budget options for the Rush Luffy? Let's start with that. Nico Robin. This is an OP09 card that will come. It's a common, it's a blocker, it's very simple. You just want to have her just to have a blocker to play early game in case you don't find your usual targets, or she's an additional target for Luffy Taro if you don't have anything else. So she's pretty much adds consistency to your core strategy, which is not bad. You don't have the rush Luffy, so yeah. And the other one is the vanilla Usopp. You don't have Bon Clay, this Usopp does just pretty much, it's perfect, you know. He does the exact same thing as Nico Robin. Let's imagine you don't find your usual targets like Zoro. You still ramp up, you can still play this Usopp, it's still a nice swing for your next turn. So yeah, and he adds consistency to your core strategy by being another target for Luffy Taro. Bon Clay, again, you don't really need Bon Clay, don't force yourself to buy the Bon Clays. You can just ramp up with your leader build and then use Linling. Linling is not that expensive, I got it for €1 each, and I got 4, so €4, so not that much, not really that much, but she is core, so yeah, you really need her, but yeah, that's pretty much the budget options. Lastly, let's go to the matchups. Remember, I'm not going to be showing matchups, that will come with more videos on the channel. We already have one in the description, so might as well check. Matchups, what decks do I counter? You countered Blue Doffy. No brainer, like your whole strategy directly counts Blue Doffy. That whole thing of swinging onto characters first, then controlling their hand size and controlling the board, and only then chipping away lives, insane. Because Doffy only plays mid-range characters, 5k, 6k cost characters. Sometimes they take the old 10 cost Kaido. But still, if that is the only problem, you still can control their hand really well. So you directly counter his biggest counter probably. So yeah, insane. And Doffy is supposedly the top 1 deck, so mind that. Second, the deck that you counter that you probably will see a lot is Black Yellow Luffy. Is not as easy as Doffy, but you still counter it very easily. You build insane amount of board really fast. And what you usually want to do against that matchup is you build that board really fast and then you slowly threaten like you're going for game with those swings. So you make like a 5k swing first to their leader and he's like, okay, he has an 8k swing, so I need to make sure that I can counter that. So let's see, maybe I should counter this 5k swing first. Or he doesn't counter. If he doesn't counter and he takes lives, you're like, okay, maybe this is enough. Let's not make him go to 0 lives or to 1 life, because that would mean you playing into his strategy. His whole strategy is to make sure he reaches 0 lives, and then he can safely just use his leader ability and make himself his leader, a very big body that you cannot swing into next turn. So what you do is you kind of need to do those mind games onto him. You make a small swing, you see if he takes or not, and if he takes, that's it. You just don't swing anymore, maybe, or maybe you swing a bit more, it depends. Again, you need to analyze the situation. Another thing that you can do is with Linling, she puts cards onto the life, which what you can do is you can pick like a character of his, like one of the 3 big brothers. You put them on top life, not on bottom, on top life, and then you make a swing, a very big swing onto it. What happens is, if Luffy takes that life, that card does not go to trash, which is what he wants it to do, so he can revive it by putting it onto lives and playing Mori, whatever, doing his combos. It goes to the bottom deck. So that's really huge, so take that into account. And the other deck that I want to mention is Lucci. Lucci, although I still believe he's somewhat countered, that's because since he lost his stage, he's not as consistent at decreasing the cost of your characters. So Luffy, Taro, Sanji, Linling, and then if you have the Rush Luffy as well, are not that easy for him to remove. He can still remove, but I would still say it's at the very least 50-50. So I'm gonna put him as you counter. Now, decks that counter you, Bonnie, impossible to win. Unless she bricks hard and cannot find her Fortress Kid, which is the biggest problem for you, because like all of your swings need to go to him, so you can't control the board like you would want to, and Luffy Taro is only even swing. So this, you need to attach down onto them just to make an even swing onto that Fortress Kid. So that's a big problem. She counters you, she's your biggest counter, and I would just counter as an auto lost, to be honest. Next is the Blackbeard. The fact that he's taking away your on-play effects from Luffy Taro, Zoro, and Onami, for example, it's really bad. So it's a really big struggle. What I would suggest for you is for you to play for Sangoro. Sangoro is the only guy here that does not have an on-play effect. So you play him, you swing with him to add cards into hand, and then you hope that Blackbeard does not find his cost depletion, which is harder than Lucci, by the way, because Blackbeard runs a lot of search, but still, it's possible. We saw a tournament of Luffy winning by doing this, and Blackbeard did not find the cost depletion. So you play Sangoro, and the other tip is, don't be afraid to play Luffy Taro as a vanilla, even if you don't have his on-play effect. It's still a very big swing. The other thing is, you need to set up winning for game before he can comfortably drop his 10 cost Blackbeard character blocker. That is the huge problem, because every big swing that you throw with Linling, Luffy Taro, or your Rush Luffy if you're playing him, will be blocked really easily, so take that into account. And lastly is Shanks, because of his leader ability of always making your leader ability almost useless, and then he can just put your characters even onto him, because you kind of want to control his board still, and he can make your characters lower power than his characters because of his leader. Not only that, once again, just like Blackbird, you need to set up for game before you stand on, because of that OP09 new Shanks that he can drop, that makes all of your characters minus 1k. That's huge, and that will make him slowly turn the game around. Not only that, that Shanks has Rush, so take that into account. Blackbeard and Shanks, you need to set up for winning game on late game before they can start dropping too many of those cards. Bonnie, it's the same, but it's much harder. Again, it's pretty much an auto lose. So yeah, this was the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. I know it still is a long video, but this is explaining everything detail by detail. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, consider liking and subscribing, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Goodbye.